Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy Drax the Destroyer and Marvel's Moondragon. Apparently there's another Moondragon out there that I don't know about. Anyway, this is a pack that was originally a Pulse exclusive, and I didn't buy it there, and I ended up going on Big Bad Toy Store and I got it. And there are some things about it that are surprisingly well done, and then there are a few things that are the usual Hasbro fare, so there's some good and some bad. You're probably noticing some of it right off the bat right now. Again, some things are really nicely done, but the Hasbro stuff is getting Hasbro'd for sure still, so we're going to talk about all of it. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. Alrighty, before we get into the figures, let's take a look at my package. I would say it's good enough. I think they need to do something better on the packaging. Half the time they're just neutral poses, half the time they're kind of poorly posed, and then every once in a while we get a really good one. To me, these poses are not great. This is just your standard hero pose, because what else are you going to do? And his looks like he's trying to take a dump. So, not in love with that, but it's okay. It's not the worst. It's okay. The side is alright. I guess they're gonna stick with those like busts that they're doing. It's okay. And then of course everything is rendered, so it looks a little bit better than the actual figure. Especially her face and this face here, but we'll talk about that. Then we have some artwork here to give us an example of what they're supposed to look like. Keep that in mind. Alright, okay. Let's set that aside. We are going to start with Moondragon. She stands roughly 6 1/4 inches to the top of her bald head. That's going to make her just shy of 16 centimeters. Here she is against her long lost twin. There you go. A little bit tall. And then we'll go ahead and maybe she's supposed to be tall. I don't know. I assume she's supposed to be normal female height. Just above 21 centimeters for Drax here. And that's going to make him about 8 1/4, give or take. And then here he is with his long lost cousin, relative, something or other. Alright, so lots of size there. Mostly reused parts across both of these figures. There's a lot of Apocalypse in here. There's a lot of all the generic female parts in here. Lots of new stuff though too, or at least some. I shouldn't say lots probably, but some. And so is it enough? We're going to find out. But let's do a quick question of the day. Kind of a very specific question. Not kind of very. It is a very specific question for this 2-pack. As far as Moondragon goes, now I'm not the biggest Moondragon or Drax the Destroyer knowledge buff. I'm not a repository of information on these characters. However, I remember her being in a different outfit when he was in this outfit and they were ever together in any sort of capacity. I understand why Hasbro might not have done that outfit, but I'll post the image there so you can see what it is. Should she have been in that outfit? That's the question of the day. I think so. I don't recognize this one. Like, I've seen it, but I never, like, paid attention to it ever in the... Like, I didn't read the comics, but I've seen the artwork and read the stories. So, to me, it's the other outfit that is Moondragon. But this one's okay. It is an accurate outfit for her. Okay, let's talk about the aesthetic on this one. Something very interesting on this release. Well, there's a whole bunch of interesting things, but the very interesting thing is it's a nice matte finish, which makes it look significantly better than your average Hasbro product. The flesh tone's painted here. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a belly button. Is that supposed to, is she known for not having a belly button? I don't think so. I think the reason she doesn't is that this is a reused body and it didn't have a belly button before, so that looks a little bit weird. Also to note, she seems especially skinny because she has the broader shoulders, which is good for your usual comic book villain, or character, not villain, just character. But she doesn't have enough meat in the torso, enough meat in the legs to make it look right. As it is, she looks really skinny with really broad shoulders and a fairly well-developed bosom. It's a strange combination of parts, frankly, and it doesn't look horrible, but it doesn't look quite right. She's just way too skinny everywhere except for her, She's just way too skinny everywhere except for her breasticles and her shoulders, so it's a little bit weird looking, but the finish is really nice. The sculpt work up here, specifically the little keyhole thing, that looks pretty good. And so the paint work everywhere else is solid too. That's a good thing. We have the metallic parts on there, no sculpt to carry that, but the paint is clean as necessary. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. Brings the figure to life a little bit. The paint on her boots also pretty clean, again, no sculpt. But it looks pretty good so far as the paint. Now let's see about the face. The semi-realistic does not work here. I don't think her head's a good shape. There's like one drawing where her head's kind of boxy like this, but generally speaking, it should be a little bit rounder. It looks a little bit strange, and I do think the anime slash realistic slash non-realistic combo here is just really off-putting. It's very strange looking if you ask me. Let me know what you guys think. But the cleanliness of the paint is pretty good. The earrings are all right. And then the last thing I want to talk about for the aesthetic is the cape. It's connected to her body so it doesn't droop and sag and do weird stuff. It is wind blown, wind swept all the time, which I think is pretty good. Like if you're not looking at it directly from the side, which looks kind of weird, I think it's a nice look. It actually looks like she's wearing a cape blowing in the wind a little bit. I think they probably could have toned it back some because it's quite billowy out here, but then this part's very solid. That's fine, but still I think they could have just done it like that maybe. Doesn't have to be quite so far out because it is a bit of a balance issue. So it's cool. I like that they did that. It's better than the alternative that they normally do, but the alternative that I would like is just a little bit more restraint. But still, not a bad looking figure. I personally hate the head. The rest is acceptable. So her aesthetic I will give for Marvel Legends an 8 out of 10. The matte finish helps a lot. For this guy, well, there's some good. Should we start with the good or the bad? Let's start with the good. It'll be nice to talk about the good. He's very colorful. That's a good thing. He's supposed to be. You know what? We'll do him back and forth. So the bad thing is the colorful nature of this guy is his downfall. Partly, the purplish color does not match. This is different from this. This is different from this and this. This is different from this. It's all over the place. And if it was just the cape or just the gloves or just the boots, fine. But making the crotch 3 separate colors, well, the crotch and legs, 3 separate colors right there, doesn't look good. Making the shoulders and the chest separate colors doesn't look good. The neon green is pretty uniform, even though this is molded and I believe this is painted right here. Yeah. So that looks pretty good. Again, the brightness that looks good is a problem because there's no shading, so it does look very cheap and plasticky, which it is because it's just cheap plastic, not painted at all. So that's a bit of a bummer. As for the gold, it's molded, but it's shiny enough so it's okay. They put a little bit of a wash on just the skull part right there. I mean, just the center part. None of this over here. So it looks okay right here, I guess, and then same thing up here, but they didn't do it for the gauntlets or the rest of the belt, so that looks a little bit cheap. For his face, they have that neon green plastic, but they actually did some really nice shading in the eyes. They colored the lips a little bit, nothing crazy, that's good. The eyes, for the red for the eyes, very clean. I think it's a wonderful sculpt, and they painted it enough to make it come to life. Not having that shading on the other green parts, though, makes him look like a little kid's toy. And then he's very glossy. Not everywhere, but some places. Shoulders glossy, crotch is glossy, legs are semi-glossy. It's just not a well-finished product. Do you like the sculpt on the cape, though? Sits nicely. It's not connected, or is it? No, it's not. Okay. It's not connected, but it sits pretty well. It should probably sit like that. It should be connected at the front, but at least they sculpted it better this time than they do most capes, so it sits pretty well. The texture on the inside is nice. It's a nice touch. And I think the sculpt is good, generally. Not symmetrical, but fairly balanced. And I think that's good. So it's not a bad looking figure. A little bit of paint would go a really long way on this guy. Even though he has some paint on him, it just needs a whole better finish and it needs some shading. But not bad looking, except for one final bad thing, which does detract from this guy quite a lot. And that's his head's too big. Drax, when he looks like this, is generally drawn really large, really broad, with a very small head comparatively. And this guy has the usual Hasbro proportions of giant head to make him look like just a scaled up figure rather than a really big guy at a smaller scale. You need to have that head smaller, so that's definitely a problem. But he still looks pretty good again, so for Marvel Legends, I will go... the glossy fin. If it was just the head, 8 or 9. The head's really nice, but everything else, I'm only going to do 7. Too many variations in color and too much shininess. Okay, as for accessories, for Moondragon, we just have her 2 fist hands that come on her in the package, then 2 style pose hands. Those are different hands than we normally see. They're smaller and look much better. They do have fingernails on them, but they still look much better than the ones we've seen in the past, so that's pretty good, I guess. That's it for her, though. And then for Drax, we do get the 2 fist hands that come on him in the package. Then we get his grippy hand and semi-grippy hand. Nice sculpts, but fingernails showing through the gloves again. And then we do get his angry head. So we got the stern head in the package, and then the angry head. I don't know how I feel about this. Actually, I do. I don't like it. He's got a really big underbite, and the way his face looks, I don't know, there's something about the face where it went from mean and angry looking to I'm trying to take a bite out of a burger with a little bit of a scowl. So I don't know what's going on there exactly. It could be the paint. The eyes are still pretty clean. The mouth is clean enough, but I think it's the way they did the underbite and the shape of the lip. There's something off about that throws off the look of this guy. So unfortunately for me, the angry head's not as good. Let me know what you guys think about that. But I think the stern head is really nice. Really nice. So accessory wise, 5 out of 10. That's just not enough. With one alternate head and then just some hands, just not enough. Okay, for articulation, she's on the standard hinge and ball peg combo. Definitely some lollipop going on, but it's fairly well hidden. She can move her head around pretty well inside her cape. It'll be enough. It's still a horrible joint, but it's okay. For the shoulders, full horizontal, no problem. Full rotation, not counting where the cape is. No bicep swivel. These are the old arms that get you just about 90 degrees. Actually, just better than 90 degrees. And that's where you get your swivel also. Wrists are on a swivel and a hinge. Diaphragm joint on this one should work well because this is that smaller, like older teen, young 20 type body that they had going on. And let's see, yeah, she leans all the way back to the point where there's a huge gap, but plenty of range, so just don't go as far and you get really good range out of that. Leaning forward, not as much. Side to side is really good. Rotation is fine. It's not the worst torso, but it is definitely just too skinny for her, in my opinion. Based on reference images. Okay, so going out to the side, that's as far as you get. Not the splits, but probably far enough. Going forward, she kicks pretty well horizontal. They go back just a touch. Thigh swivel will swivel. Knees have good range. Proportioning's not too bad. Ankles go all the way forward, all the way back, and you get a decent ankle rocker. It's not perfect, but it's pretty solid. So hers is not bad. It's not the best thing we've seen as far as females from Hasbro, but it's not the worst. I'll give it a 7 for articulation. It'll be okay. Now, granted, she's not going to be posing too much anyway, so it's probably fine for you, but objectively, it's just a 7. Okay, as for Drax, it's the same as Apocalypse, pretty much. His head, he can't really look up because of the cape. He can look down just a little bit, which will probably be good because he's not that tall, so it should be fine. Then he can rotate a little bit, but that cape is right there, so very minimal posing for the neck, practically speaking. Shoulders better than horizontal by just a touch. You're going to get your full rotation, no problem there. Bicep swivel is fine. Single jointed elbow gets you 90 degrees. He's a chonker, so it's not as much. Wrists have a swivel and a hinge. Ab crunch on this guy does go back. His cape's not going to want him to go too much farther, but that's probably far enough. Decent range. Going forward, it's fine. It works pretty well. It's not bad for an ab crunch, and it's pretty well hidden by the character design, so it's alright. Waist twist is a waist twist with a floaty belt. Hips don't go very far forward. That's unfortunate. They do go back just a touch. Going all the way out to the side, better than her. Big fat guy over here gets better splits than the skinny lady. Very strange. But look at that. Build-A-Figure parts don't like staying together sometimes. So the splits are okay. Thigh swivel is gonna thigh swivel. Double jointed knee. Gonna get you pretty good range. No problem there. The ankles technically rotate, but these are sculpted to fit here. Mine came backwards. I had to actually force it to turn around and then turn the foot around, but practically speaking, you don't really get any rotation due to the sculpt here, but you can technically force it. And this part will just flex if you need to do that. Ankles go all the way back, all the way forward, kind of loose. You get a decent ankle rocker, but since it's not perfect, you can force this, and then you get a much better ankle rocker. So be aware of that. It doesn't look like it can, but it can. Alright, so his articulation is very average. It's limited by the character design. That's not so much his fault, but it also is limited by Hasbro's decision making. So I'm going to say he gets a 7. It's fine. It's not great. It's not bad. It will be good enough. Okay, and so now it's time for the final verdict on this 2-pack. It's way better than I thought it was going to be. And it's nice because he's going to look good on a shelf, just from the character design, so it's a good thing that they chose that. I think oftentimes Hasbro chooses the lamest, most boring character designs because they're easier to produce, and so they just look like a sea of gray on your shelf. Not literally, but hopefully you get what I mean. This is going to stand out. She's going to stand out, even if it's not the look for her that I would have preferred. Not because I'm a pervert, just because to me, the other one is more comic-y and suits the whole Guardians of the Galaxy thing. Anyway, they're fine. It's a pretty good set for Hasbro. It's certainly not knocking my socks off, but I'm pleasantly surprised by them not being horrible. So I'm going to give this set an overall rating of, for Hasbro at the overpriced Hasbro Marvel Legends perspective, an 8 out of 10. It's a decent 2-pack. It's better than a lot of the things we've seen. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But there it is. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.